Athlete Cinema, let's ride.
We're back. Raise the roof. So do you want to talk about what we're going to do different this season?
Yeah, so it's been a long kind of off season, I guess, for us in terms of not recording, and we're back. I mean, obviously we were so busy during the season, but last season we just kind of scripted everything, and it was mainly just focused athletes and movies. We didn't really dive into like their athletic backgrounds and like why they chose the sports they did, and we just like focused on movies, and we were talking like we're cinema, so there's more TV shows, events going on. So basically, we are trying to like widen our spectrum on this podcast and like talk about UFC events going on, big wrestling tournaments, football games, just kind of spread out the whole cinema part of it, and then also getting to know athletes more and kind of their backstory and not just having to hear what they have to say about movies.
Yeah, I feel like we weighed a little too heavy on the athlete, or we weighed too much on the movie part of it and didn't even really touch the athlete part. So this season, like Stoney said, we're going to try to, number one, I think we also try to make it like an interview, and it's not an interview, it's a podcast. So we're going to try to have normal conversations. Just talk about like, not even just their athletic background, but just what's going on with them, how's their training, stuff like that. So
I guess kind of saying we're not going to talk about movies. We might as well just dive right into it. So obviously it's been a long break since we recorded, and I just kind of have two movies that I've seen that I really enjoyed, and that was Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which a little raccoon just kind of makes your heart just burst. But amazing movie. I think it was really good for kind of James Gunn's last go, and I was really impressed with it. And then the other movie that I put down was Spider-Man Across the Spider-Verse, and like you learn so much in that movie, and for it being animated, it is just a hands down like almost perfect job. And real big cliffhanger, spoiler alert, but I think the next one's coming out March 29th, so we're not gonna have to wait that long, and I think that's good.
So explain to me, the only Spider-Man I know is like Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. How is this the same? Because this is like a cartoon.
So I don't want to spoil the movie, but basically, like obviously, I don't know if you know, everything's connected through like multiverses.
Yeah.
So like, I'll just say spoiler alert. In this movie, it's basically like he gets into the Spider-Verse, and it's kind of like through the multiverse, and he meets like other Spider-Mans, and then there's a planet that's like just a spider like planet for like all the Spider-Mans. It's like their HQ, and you see in one of the spider webs, like you see Tobey Maguire, and you see like Andrew Garfield, and then like he mentions like Tom Holland, he mentions him, but you never see him. So basically everything's connected. So it's really good job, and it's kind of scary to think like all these movies are connected, and then it's also kind of, I'm a diehard Marvel fan, but like thinking about I'm going to be in my casket and this thing's not going to be over with.
Yeah.
Hopefully reincarnated. We don't see it.
So my movies, I haven't really seen any like new movies even since we ended, which was like 8 months ago. I've just kind of been recycling movies, so I'll just read the ones that I've seen in the past, like, I guess 3 or 4 weeks. I rewatched Jarhead. Have you ever seen Jarhead?
I want to say bits and pieces. I don't think
so. It's a war movie with what's his name, Jake Gyllenhaal. It's super good. It's about the war in Iraq. So that was really good. Rewatched Pitch Perfect. I know you've seen that.
Perfect.
Breakfast Club, also like all-time great movie.
Oh, yeah.
Ted, know you love Ted. And then my roommate Christian Navita also showed me a movie called The Town. Have you ever seen that? It's basically just like a movie about organized crime, and I guess not organized crime, but like these people are bank robbers, and I think it's based off a true story. They go and rob. The ending of the movie is they go and rob. I think it's the Red Sox stadium.
Oh, really?
For like a bunch of millions of dollars, and then they get caught, and then the movie kind of ends. But it was a really good movie. It's long. I believe it's on Netflix, but yeah, that was a really good one. I guess I did see a new movie, so yeah, that's about all I saw.
Kind of keep it flowing. TV shows, kind of nothing new. I mean, I Think You Should Leave. That was one I've kind of. That's almost just a skit. It's like it's barely even a TV show because like you can watch any order.
It's like Saturday Night Live.
Yeah, literally. They just dropped the 3rd season and one of the funniest TV shows I've ever seen. And then I started watching Young Sheldon. I have TikTok obviously, and it just
it's the only thing on my TikTok right now.
Flooded my For You page.
Yeah.
I gave it a shot. So I used to my parents would watch Big Bang Theory. Like obviously your parents watch a TV show. End of the time you're gonna be talking to your mom or dad in the living room and you're just kind of watching it. So Young Sheldon was pretty good, and then I've kind of just binge watching Street Outlaws. I used to love that show as a kid.
I haven't seen it.
It's about this. Okay, they're in Oklahoma City, and they have like a list of like the fastest in the country or in Oklahoma
what?
street cars. So they street race, and then they go like challenge different countries, and it's all about like list races. So it's pretty good and just kind of a fun show I've been watching.
Yeah. For my shows, I Think You Should Leave on there. Also,
you sure about that?
You sure about that? You sure about that? That's why?
I Think You Should Leave. I want to say everybody should watch it, but my roommate is so frustrated because I think it's the funniest show ever made, but he just doesn't see the appeal in it, and that's happened. I mean, all of our teammates think it's hilarious, and there's like 3 of them who think it's the dumbest show ever.
Yeah, you definitely have to have like a taste for like just something goofy, a small skit.
Yeah.
And it's just stupid humor. Like it's not like a kind of comedian or anything. It's just like
humor. The background of I Think You Should Leave, it's Tim Robinson who worked on Saturday Night Live and then he left. So it's like a modernized Saturday Night Live. So I don't know. I mean, I think that anyone our age would think it's funny, but apparently not. And then my second show, it's called Death Note. I have always like hated anime. I think it's just cringy and like I'm not terrible animation. But my teammate Ben was like, you should watch it, as well as Jaden and Matt Ramos. So I gave in, and I'm on episode 7, and I am not happy to say that I think it's really good. I'm kind of like mad at myself that I like it so much, but yeah. It's called Death Note. It's on Netflix. There's only 37 episodes, and it's only 1 season, so it's short, but it's really good.
Awesome. So this is kind of the part where we're going to switch up now. Basically, now we're going to talk about just things going on. So UFC 289 just happened, and Charles Oliveira, he might have looked the best he's ever looked.
Dude, he... See, this is also the part in the video where a lot of people are probably going to click off because I don't think a lot of people are UFC fans. But if you are a UFC fan, like, I know that you love Charles Oliveira because he's the easiest liked person in the UFC ever. Like, I keep on seeing videos on my TikTok today and yesterday and the day before of like his picture of him like in his favela. He was like a pizza delivery man, and then he went to the UFC and he wasn't like crazy good, and then now he's insanely good. But yeah, I loved that fight. I was really nervous. I actually told, I think like everyone, I might have told you that he's not going to win a round in that fight. And then looking back, it's stupid that I said that because people said the same thing when he fought Justin Gaethje and Michael Chandler, and then he went and did the exact same thing with those guys too.
Exactly.
But how do you think he's going to do against Islam in the second fight?
I think the way his hands looked against Darush, I was very impressed because he's a lot of times I've watched him when I first like really started getting to UFC. He's always get knocked down, then he'd come back and he'd land a left hook.
Well, he also I don't even know if he gets hit that hard. I think he like uses it as like a bat, like
to pull guard. Almost.
Yeah. It's like
and that was like a good thing I seen against Darush is like he wanted to fight Darush on the ground, and his head movement when he was on his back trying to pull guard was unreal. There was like 3 or 4 times where Darush like full on just punched the canvas.
Yeah, you can hear Joe Rogan in there saying he just punched a hole through the canvas. But I think that the reason I thought Dariush was gonna just like maul him was because I didn't think Dariush was going to be scared to go on the ground with him, and that's why Islam just manhandled him, is because he went to the ground and Islam's like, okay, and then got him in a arm triangle. So like, I really didn't see that coming, but yeah, that was a pleasant surprise.
Like, I feel like when Oliveira stayed on his back, like Dariush, when they ended up going back to their feet and Oliveira was going to take Darush's back, actually Dariush, you know, he's got some jiu-jitsu and wrestling in him. I feel like he was so scared of giving up his back that he just kind of like wanted to stand up right away, and that's when he got clocked and then kind of TKO'd from there. But I think Oliveira has a good shot at beating Islam if he looks anything like he did, and yeah, that's kind of my take.
You started it off with saying that his hands looked good. He's so underrated on his feet.
Oh, 100%.
Like, I don't know. Because Dariush was not going to go on the ground with him. He was like, okay, I'll go on your feet, and then he knocked him down, and then end of story. But yeah, I love Charles. I hope that he beats Islam. But I don't know, dude. Islam's so well put together. I did think he lost his fight against Volk, though.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah.
Nunes retires on top. I mean, you know, she's pretty much the GOAT of women's MMA. I think Julia Pena isn't very happy about that, but hats off to Amanda Nunes. I'm sorry, but her fight was kind of boring.
Yeah, Amanda Nunes, if you're watching this, congrats.
Maybe you can come on.
You can come on.
We've got a lot more time now.
We're pretty busy, though, so just like DM us, and it'll probably be a month or so, but if you want to come on, let us know.
Yeah, and then coming up July 8th, we have UFC 290. One of the very, very good cards. You got Alexander, 2 title fights. You got the featherweight fight with Volk versus Yair, which we kind of think have split ideas on that. And then we have the flyweight fight between Moreno and Pantoja. And then we have Robert Whitaker's on that card, Dan Hooker's on that card, and then Bo Nickel.
Yeah. So you think Volk is going to win that fight?
I think Volk's going to win. I think Volk kind of has a bad taste in his mouth from the Islam fight, obviously. I think the judges kind of bad call. I mean, it's whatever. I mean, I never understand the judges because I watched one fight, like the Max Holloway-Volkanovski fight. Like, I thought Max Holloway controlled, but Volk got a couple takedowns and he won. And then you watch the Peter Yan Sugar Sean fight. Sugar Sean maybe had a couple more significant strikes and one that like really cut him, but Peter Yan had so much like control, and it's like usually people like you take takedowns into account. So I think we were watching it in this room, and I think we all thought Peter Yan won. And then when they raised Sugar Sean's hand, I think everyone's jaw dropped. But that was kind of crazy. So I think Volk's gonna win. I think Yair is definitely a strange matchup for him.
Yeah, that's why I think that Yair is going to win, especially based off his last fight. That dude's kicks are unreal, but like you got to put into account Volk's range. The dude has longer arm. There's some stat he like has longer or the same reach as like John Jones or some crazy tall guy. So I don't know, but Yair's last fight he looked unstoppable. So that's why I'm going with Yair.
And then I guess can Bo Nickel be stopped? I mean, I think, in my personal opinion, the best wrestler to ever go into the UFC.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically wise, and just the way he wrestled, he was just so free and dominant, and he's just carrying it over to the UFC like effortlessly. And like his fights are they're fun to watch, but you buy the pay-per-view and you're only watching them for a minute tops.
Yeah. Obviously, we're going to be biased because we're wrestlers and we've watched this guy wrestle since he was a freshman in college, but I think give him a 1.5 or 2 years of developing his striking, because I think his wrestling's there. Give him a 1.5 or 2 years of striking, and I think he could beat Hamzat. I don't know about right now because Hamzat is a dog on his feet, and I'm not saying Bo Nickel is a dog on his feet.
Don't know if
you don't know. Because I mean, he hasn't really taken a lot of punches, so you don't know. But I think a 1.5 or 2 years. I don't know if he'll get the fight in that short amount of time because with UFC you fight every 7-8 months. But I think in a 1.5 or 2 years he could beat Hamzat.
I agree. And then kind of last part on UFC, the Ultimate Fighter is back. They kind of brought it back big coaching, we have Conor McGregor, who's probably my favorite MMA fighter of all time. Just a swagger, and in his prime, he was a bad man. And then we got Michael Chandler, who another wrestled for Missouri, but I don't know. I like his fighting style, but he just after the first round basically puts on a blindfold.
Yeah, his fight IQ is very low, and Conor's fight IQ is incredibly high. Who do you think has the best fight IQ in the UFC
Like right now?
right now? I would have to say I'm kind of going against myself here, but Volk
That's what I was thinking.
Volk has a crazy good fight IQ.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah, Conor's fight IQ. I think when that fight does take place, I think Conor kind of weathers the storm a little bit, and then towards the end, not towards the end of the fight, because I don't think it goes past 3 rounds, but well, actually, it can't go past 3 rounds. It's only 3-round fight. Won't it be?
Well, if it's a main event, it'll be 5.
Okay.
I think. I'm not 100%, but
yeah, I don't. If it is a 5-round fight, I still don't think it goes past 3 rounds. I think Conor starts to piece him up and finds his holes, and Conor has an incredibly long reach, and his kickboxing is incredibly good. So I think he pieces him up, and I could go on and on about Conor because I love the dude. He's my favorite UFC fighter ever, but that you kind of see him like, I don't want to say like losing the love of the game. Because you don't know. I guess his documentary kind of proves me wrong there.
right.
Which, by the way, I should have put that on.
I was just gonna say that
Yeah,
TV show forever.
But I think that he just has so much going on. If you see like pictures of Michael Chandler on his Instagram, and maybe Conor's doing this thing where he's like holding back and not posting pictures of him sparring or fighting. But like if you look at Michael Chandler's Instagram, he's in the gym. He's at wrestling practice, jiu-jitsu practice, boxing, hitting the heavy bag, hitting pads, and then you look at Conor's and he's like
Flexing on a bike.
or at
on his yacht.
on his Lamborghini yacht, or promoting his new beer. So it's hard to say. Like obviously, I want Conor to win because I love the dude, but I do think he's gonna win. I think he'll pull it.
Yeah.
This Ultimate Fighter is also tough to watch too because he's 0-2 right now, but
Yeah.
I think tonight, we're filming this on a Tuesday, so the Ultimate Fighter's on tonight at what, 10:30?
10. Yeah.
10. So yeah, hopefully he gets his first win.
Yeah, and kind of breaking it down, I would assume some of you don't know what the Ultimate Fighter is, especially if you're still watching and we're on the UFC segment. Basically, it's just they bring in all these MMA fighters, so there's prospects and veterans. So prospects are like the younger guys who want to get in the UFC and fight, and they just kind of fight amateur. And then veterans are people who have been in the UFC, but they ended up getting cut from the roster. So Michael Chandler ended up with all the veterans, and Conor McGregor ended up with all the prospects. And McGregor's 0-2 right now, but I think it can be a big change around. And I want to talk to you about this, how in previous years, like Ultimate Fighter, they've been doing so many, like they do challenges and everything, but I feel like since Michael Chandler is such an athlete that like they can't just do like games and CrossFit stuff just because I think Michael Chandler, no offense, Conor McGregor, like we were saying.
Yeah, Conor, if you're watching this, Conor, no offense. What are you saying?
Just do what you're told. But Michael Chandler is just a freak of nature when it comes to that. So I feel like that'd be the only thing.
Yeah, unless they're racing like Lamborghinis, Conor might have the upper hand.
I guess before we get into our final segment, I'll squeeze this in. NBA, Nuggets, not really a big NBA guy, but Nuggets get their first championship. I really want to see Jimmy Butler win, but
I did too.
Nikolai Jokic and Murray, they're just kind of an unstoppable. I don't think anyone can stop Jokic. And I said Nuggets in 5 earlier, even though I wanted the Heat to win just because I knew like there's just too much power there.
Yeah.
And congrats to them. But,
I actually didn't watch a game of the NBA Finals, but I watched like highlights on Twitter and stuff, and I wanted to see Jimmy Butler win, but also like looking at Jokic's like background of him with like his horses, and he's like a very simple guy. It's hard not to like the guy because like he doesn't talk bad about anyone. He seems like a good guy. Like I don't know him, but like he seems on social media and everything. He seems like a good guy. So yeah, good for him.
And then our last topic, we're gonna get into Final X. So Final X is basically men's wrestling's world team trials. So in these matches, you obviously have to. If you medaled at Worlds the previous year, you have an automatic like position in the finals. and then people have to go through the U.S. Open or the World Team Trials to get to face him, and it's a best 2 out of 3 series, first to 2, and we had predictions ready, and we didn't get to film in time, so we already had the results, but we're gonna go over like the predictions we had.
Yeah, I just counted mine. I only had 5 right. It's actually better than I thought I would. But.
Yeah, I'm not 100%. So starting off at 57 kilograms, it was Thomas Gilman versus Zane Richards. Gilman's kind of been the guy at 57 kilograms for a good amount of time now.
Returning world champ.
Yeah.
Also.
And I had Gilman in 2 matches. Zane Richards, older, but Zane Richards just brought it. And
yeah.
I think that was probably the biggest surprise in all of these. Well, possibly.
I don't know. I mean,
but
you gotta put
Zane Richards in 2.
Yeah.
I think that was my biggest upset that I thought. And, good for him. And hopefully he can go make some noise over. And
yeah,
I'm not sure where they're wrestling, but hopefully he can make some noise.
Yeah, Zane Richards looked good. I had Gilman in 3. I thought Zane Richards would squeak out 1 win, but he looked dominant. He looked good. I also took into account Thomas Gilman being at Nittany Lion, and their game planning for matches is unlike anything. So I thought Gilman would kind of have him figured out, but yeah, Zane Richards looked on his game. Gilman looked good too, but I did not see that coming. But it was a good match.
Yeah. 61, we had Vito Arujau versus Nashawn Garrett. Both went to Cornell. I had Vito in 2. I think Vito's on a different level, especially watching him in NCAA semis and finals. I don't think anyone predicted that. And I think that he's, I don't want to say guaranteed gold medalist, but I think he's the guy to beat at Worlds.
Yeah. His NCAA finals match against RBY, he looked like the fastest person I've ever seen on a wrestling mat. It was everything so clean. His technique is perfect. So yeah, I had Vito in 2. Nashawn Garrett looked really good though.
Yeah.
I didn't think it would be that close, but Nashawn looked really good. And Nashawn's getting kind of old. I don't know how old he is. I would say he's like 31 or something. Or
yeah, I want to say he won his national title in like 2016.
Oh, okay. So he's a little younger.
Yeah, he's probably 27, 28,
Yeah.
but still, that's for a lot of Vito's probably 22, 23, and he's really kind of getting to his prime.
Yeah.
So, 65 kilos, we had Yanni Diakomahalis and Nick Lee. Nick Lee, you guys didn't know, he was on season 1, probably our most viewed video.
Oh, yeah.
Shout out
Hands
Nick.
down.
And I had Yanni in 3, no offense, Nick, but Nick Lee, man. What a dog.
And
1 and 2.
That's why we call him Slick Nick. I had Nick Lee in 2. I got it right.
That's awesome. This was probably one of the most we won't say the most just because JB obviously the GOAT of USA Wrestling. But the exposure, I when I first seen it live, I thought guaranteed to. And I can see where they called it. But when you watch it in slow-mo, and I think anything in wrestling, when you watch in slow-mo, you might change your mind. So it's like, did he expose? But end of the day, I think Nick Lee deserved it. And I think if they went to a 3rd match, like you were saying, Nittany Lion Wrestling Club's preparation and planning is so good. Yeah. I think Nick Lee would have squeaked it out. I obviously didn't have that in my predictions, but I was rooting for him.
Yeah, this was like hopeful thinking for me. Like I don't want to say I didn't have faith that Nick would get it done in 2 because I did. That was my prediction. But that was crazy for me. I was jumping in the air. That was if you guys didn't watch season 1, I went to the same high school as Nick. I went to high school with both of his brothers. So yeah, I wanted Nick to win, and looking back, people are like, I don't know if he got it. And I'm like, yeah, he did. But yeah, that was the reffing. I don't want to get into it a lot, but the reffing was a little iffy at Final X, but I don't want to sound like a coach or anything, but I guess you just have to you
keep it out of their hands.
Yeah, you got to keep it out of the refs' hands, just like any other sport.
That's the thing about freestyle. Freestyle I think is better because there's 3 refs, so there's 3 decisions being made, and obviously a lot more reviews.
Yeah.
Which I feel like it's nice, but at the same time, these refs don't like you, especially if you're an age veteran. That really can not plead your case.
Yeah.
So moving on to 70 kilograms, I think this was probably the easiest match to predict. I had Zane Rutherford in 2.
Yeah,
That's
I
exactly
also-
what he did.
Yeah, I also
Kind of dominated his way.
got a little chippy.
Oh yeah, Tyler Berger, scrappy guy, but I think
Kinda
Zane
better
just
than-
had way too much for him.
Yeah, did you see the picture?
Oh yeah,
Of I'll put it on there, but Zane had a huge gash with like probably 7 stitches on there. That was dirty. But yeah, Zane since he's been in college has been. That's why they call him Zane Train. The dude's a monster, and his technique is so crisp. And Tyler Berger, I like watching Tyler Berger too. He's a dog, and that was a really good match. So I had Zane in 2 also.
74 kilograms. We have Kyle Dake, defending world champ, versus Jason Nolf.
Yeah.
This match I was kind of toss up. I
Yeah.
mean, I really want to see Jason Nolf. I had Dake in 2 just because I think he stays in such solid position
Mm-hmm.
that no one was going to break it, and that's what he did. I think they were good matches. I think Dake is so good at like gaming matches and just like his
Yeah.
power and his chest wrap.
Dude, yeah,
I don't know if you've
he's
seen
strong.
when Nolf got in, and I was like, oh, he might score, and then he
Yeah.
literally just picked him up and
Oh, yeah.
put him down and scored. That was just kind of unreal, and
Did you have
they
Dake in
scored
too?
actually. Yep.
Yeah, I also had Dake in too. Flo was kind of like being iffy about it, which I mean that's their job is to promote. But I also had Dake in too, and Jason Nolf is a gamer, and I love watching him wrestle. But I think that the deciding factor in that one was like power. I don't want to say the deciding factor because there's a lot of factors that go into it, but Dake's power and his technique, like the dude doesn't make mistakes, and that's I think why. When he wrestled JB, kind of got JB's number towards the end of their little saga that they had, is he just never got out of position. He never raised his level so JB could get to his double. So
Exactly.
yeah, his technique and his power kind of, I don't want to say it's the only reason, but definitely helped him in that match a lot.
And something also crazy, I don't even know why, I'm just thinking about this now, and I think we talked about this last year. So both those wrestlers wrestle for Nittany Lion Wrestling Club. That's out of Penn State. And that's just kind of crazy to think about. Like, let's just say me and you are training out of Boilermaker RTC, and like we're both wrestling to be a world team member and like go out and chase our dreams. And you're literally practicing like with each other,
That's
training right
weird.
next to this guy.
Yeah.
And it's like that was the only match that happened. And then just thinking, I remember thinking the coaches, like, it's like you obviously have to be there because you get the 30-second break, but at the same time, like, I feel like I wouldn't even want to like coach. Like, because I seen Nolf had Bo Nickel in his corner, and I can't remember who else. I know Cal was in Dake's corner, and I just don't even know how you can do that.
Was it Casey Cunningham?
Maybe,
I actually didn't. I didn't see the break, so I didn't get to see the coaches.
but it's
Yeah,
unreal. But
I think Nolf one. I think it was Nolf before the match. He was like, yeah, he kind of came into Nittany Lion Wrestling Club, and it was like kind of weird at first, but they're friends. Like you can't not be friends when you're training next to a guy every single day. So yeah, that has to be weird though, at some level.
79 kilos. We had Jordan Burroughs, who, if you don't know wrestling, pretty much the Michael Jordan
the face
of wrestling. Versus Chance Marsteller, who basically wants to be the guy who dethrones Burroughs, and he finally did. He finally made it, get a shot at Worlds. Another controversy, a lot in those matches. And first match, JB took
3-3
tactic-wise through the challenge break because he said Marsteller pulled a singlet, and I think everyone was wondering what he was throwing, and then he ends up getting the call. And then kind of second match just kind of went to Marsteller's way. And then third match, Marsteller kind of threw it out of the water. Questionable for, people show it in slow-mo, and I feel like that's just so hard to anticipate if you stop your momentum just because it's so slow and everything. But also, freestyle rules are so much different than folk style, and it's kind of hard just because it's a judgment call. And
I think a lot of people are biased on this too because so many people look up to JB, just like how I'm sure me and you also look up to JB. Like, he's the man and has been for like a decade now. So the rule in freestyle is, and I was talking to a bunch of people about this, so like the rule is you have to, if a guy shoots on you, you have to change the direction and like stop momentum and then go through. So I think that he kind of stopped the momentum, but there was no direction change, and he was also on the edge of the mat. Like, it was such an iffy call, and it could have gone both ways. I'm not saying that the refs were wrong in any way, but definitely an iffy call. I had JB in 3. I thought Marcelo would beat him in 1 match, but Marcelo looked good.
Yeah, he looked very
and
solid.
crisp.
Definitely was in shape and ready for that match.
Mhm.
So 86 kilograms. We had another Nittany Lion versus Nittany Lion. We have David Taylor versus Aaron Brooks. I had Taylor in 2 just because, Brooks obviously still wrestled in college. And same thing, you're training with these guys right next to him. But David Taylor, defending Olympic champ, defending world champ, he's kind of the man.
Yeah,
So,
and Aaron Brooks, I don't know, but you would have to assume that Aaron Brooks looks up to David Taylor at some level, just because, I mean, when Aaron Brooks first got to Penn State, I mean, David Taylor was probably 1 year off winning his national title. So at some level, you have to look up to him. So that had to be a little weird. Just like we were talking about with Dake and Nolf, you're also teammates. I'm sure Aaron Brooks has wrestled in the same room as David Taylor a couple thousand times. So
exactly.
it has to be a little weird. And I expected those matches to just be, not to be mean, but just boring.
Just you wrestle each other.
Yeah,
and train.
you know their style. So, I also had David Taylor in 2. David Taylor's just an animal, and he's also super crisp. Yeah, so that's who I had.
And then at 92, I believe, we had Zahid Valencia versus Makhachev. Machiavello. Zahid actually bumping up because he lost to Aaron Brooks at the U.S. Open, so he went through the World Team Trials at a higher weight, and kind of figured, he looked really good, and I know he's going to be a little bit smaller, but I feel like not cutting weight and just how technically sound he is and kind of free, I felt pretty confident, and he looked really good. I think he was probably one of the most dominant wrestlers at Final X.
Yeah. Who did you? What was your prediction?
Zahid too.
Okay, I actually had Machiavello in 3.
Really?
Just based off his last tournament that he wrestled, he looked so good.
That is true.
And he looked strong, he looked powerful, and his technique was crisp. But yeah, I guess I underestimated Zahid a little bit there. But yeah, I got that one wrong also.
And then kind of the biggest surprise at 97 kilograms, we have Kyle Snyder, world champ, Olympic champ, and then we have Jaden Cox, world champ, Olympic bronze medalist, kind of 2 guys that are, really, really good. And basically, I remember, I was sitting here and Joey was telling me, did you see that Jaden Cox weighed in on crutches? And just kind of sucks that we didn't get to see that super match, and, hopefully praying for a fast recovery for Jaden Cox. But just one of those, so he didn't wrestle. Obviously, he just broke an ankle or something messed up, which it stinks, but you can tell Kyle Snyder's kind of upset because he probably wanted to get that scrap and especially challenge before you go to Worlds. And I'm sure we'll see them wrestle again in the future. But
I had Snyder in 3 there. I thought Jaden Cox would get him in a match, but obviously it didn't happen. That was the match I was looking forward to the most out of that whole tournament. It could have gone any combination of matches. It was anybody's. I think it would have been anybody's, but Kyle Snyder is another guy. I'm saying it again. His technique is perfect, and he's incredibly strong. So, but yeah, I had Snyder in 3, and unfortunately, it just didn't happen.
Yeah, and then for heavyweight, 125 kilograms, we had Gable Stephenson versus Mason Paris. Gable coming off an Olympic Olympic title, just won, or not this year, 2 years ago, won a second NCAA title. Kind of just the man right now. I thought he wasn't going to come back and just kind of take his WWE route, get his bag, respect to him. He's done so much for the sport and influence. And I think it was almost a joke, do you guys want to see me come back and do it again? And next thing I know, he's wrestling at the U.S. Open. And it's just some of these, the defending national champions teching in the finals there. And then he got Mason Paris, him and Wyatt Hendrickson's match to get to the finals. That match is one of the best heavyweight matches I've ever seen.
For sure.
And Mason Paris definitely I think they've finally hit that match where you've wrestled so many times that you kind of get to figure it out.
Yeah.
It's going to be a little slower pace, lower scoring. And Paris looked real good. I'll give it to him, but kind of Gable was just the man. He was able to take care of business.
Yeah, he's a showman. Even if you guys are somehow still here and you're not wrestling fans, good job. But even if you aren't a wrestling fan, you probably know who Gable Stephenson is. I could watch him wrestle all day. He wrestles like a 125 pounder, and he's 125 kilogram wrestler. So he's so fun to watch wrestle, and he's a showman, which is nothing like anyone does in the sport. Doing a heavyweight, doing backflips and stuff like that.
Getting like off the ground.
Yeah, and he's definitely brought so many eyes to the sport. It's awesome for us. So yeah, I also had Gable in too.
So that's pretty much our episode. This is kind of going to be the new format. We didn't have a guest on, obviously, just kind of explain what we're doing, catch up with us, see how we're doing and everything, and kind of talk through what's been going on. But we plan on going back to episode a week, and yeah, we're excited.
Yeah, obviously this episode was filled with our favorite stuff, so it's filled with UFC and a lot of wrestling. Obviously that will change if we have a volleyball player. It'll be volleyball stuff, and football stuff. So it'll change a little bit, but we are definitely aiming to dive a little deeper into whatever respective sport it is.
100%.
Yeah, so I think that is it. Thank you guys.
If you
guys are still here, thank you, and we'll see you next week.
You sure about that?